Okay, I'm going to bring your next act on. You ready for your next act? Yeah, so start stamping your feet, start clapping your hands, start cheering. From stage, Nathan Virica!
Hello. So I recently took some time off from comedy not so long ago. But while I was having my hiatus, I kind of still wanted to do something, productive and worthwhile. And I wanted to do something that would benefit not just me, but also society as a whole in the long term. So I spent it trying to work out how I could frame James Corden for the unsolved murder of Jill Dando. I'll get rid of him. I actually saw some of his work recently, and it honestly made me rethink my previously negative attitude towards heart disease. Got me thinking as well, maybe we could apply the same method to get rid of some other shit celebrities as well. Turn on the news one day to find out that Al Megrahi has been posthumously pardoned for the Lockerbie bombing because new evidence has come to light that reveals that the plot was actually masterminded by none other than Michael McIntyre. Back to my own life, I suppose. I got accosted by one of those charity fundraisers outside my local co-op the other day. The sort of people armed with a clipboard and an insincere smile. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that charity is a wonderful thing. I think if you can afford to give to charity regularly, you should absolutely do so. But allow me to give you some context here. Now, I suffer from anxiety and depression, right? I mean, I'm a stand-up comedian. Of course, I've got fucking mental health problems. And, I was on a particularly low day, and I was wearing my hoodie, so I had my hood up, and I didn't really much feel like talking to anyone. So I used the self-service checkout as well. I bought one item, a bottle of own-brand barbecue sauce, and made my way sort of out of the shop. Now, this chugger had seen all of this because he was stood in the doorway and had somehow thought to himself, now there's an approachable young man with deep pockets and a big heart. And I still don't know what he must have thought after I blanked him. Like, maybe I misread the situation there. Oh well, what about that bearded man over there with the urinated trousers? One swigging wine from a bottle and indiscriminately shouting at traffic. Maybe he'd like Mike to spend some of his disposable income on rescuing a polar bear. I'll go and ask. That was a new bit. Moving on to sports. So I actually do play quite a bit of sport and watch quite a lot as well, and enjoy the occasional flutter. But despite that, one sport I just can't get into is horse racing. Too many things annoy me about it, and some are less obvious than others. For example, did you know that a horse has to be at least 2 years old before it's allowed to race? Now, who are the horse racing governing body to tell a younger horse but it doesn't know its own mind well enough to know it wants to follow its dream of running in the 3:30 at Chepstow? Just discrimination, man. But obviously the one that gets the goat of animal rights activists in particular is, when a horse falls and they bring the black screens round so they can euthanize the horse there and then out on the course. And I have to agree. I find the practice abhorrent. I don't think it has any place in horse racing. But I do think there might be a place for it in some other sports. Premiership football, for example. I wonder how keen the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and Didier Drogba would have been to throw themselves to ground if there'd been a man with a rifle prowling the touchline. Or better still, the London Marathon. Love to see that this year. Some D-list non-entity like Amanda Holden. Going over on her ankle after 10 miles and immediately being flanked with the black screens and a firing squad. No, don't shoot. I'm running to raise awareness for breast cancer. Everyone's already fully aware of breast cancer, Holden. There is no one watching this who hasn't heard of breast cancer. The only thing you're trying to raise awareness of is yourself, you attention-seeking cunt. And let's all take a moment to enjoy the irony of a stand-up comedian wearing this hat, having the gall to accuse anyone else of being an attention-seeking cunt. I'm going to leave you on this one, because this is quite a personal story. This one happened to me kind of last year. Yeah, because last year I wasn't doing too well physically or mentally, and I actually spent some time in hospital. And if I could sum up the hospital experience for any of you, if you've not had it, it was on the third afternoon, I think. I was sort of rousing from an afternoon nap, and going on smell alone, I just assumed that one of the other patients on the ward had just used the commode. It was only when I started to get my other senses back and wake up a little bit more that I realised that it was actually dinner time, and what I could smell was the hospital food. Now, in a cost of living crisis, being in hospital is the one time when you're going to be offered a free hot meal, and it will elicit the response from you, "I'm good, thanks. I've got some Monster Munch." But a couple of days after that was when the big thing happened. A guy in my ward actually died, and he was an old and confused man. I never caught his name, but yeah, I basically saw the whole thing unfold, watched a man die. A couple of hours later, I just wanted to go into one of the cubicles to get some sort of alone time, and I accidentally walked in on this other old guy having a shit. You know, because the locks on those things are fiddly, and I backed out, but I'd seen everything, and I had to just use the cubicle down the corridor, but I'd seen everything, and it was while I was in the other cubicle that I really started to think hard about the day's events, not just the shitting man I'd just seen, but also the man whose life I'd just seen come to an end. And these thoughts were just all in my mind. And have you any idea how difficult it is to have a wank when you've got a cannula sticking out of your hand? I think what I'm trying to say there, in a sort of roundabout way, is save our NHS. Thank you very much. Good night, Liverpool.
Cheers, mate. Nathan Virica, everyone!